G'day everybody, Mick from OzTruckIntV, out here at Gympie with David Gibson, the MP for the local area here. How are you, David?
Good, Mick. Yourself, mate?
Mate, I want to talk to you about the whole thing with KYBONG. Last May, a young life was lost there, and OzTruckIntV, the Transport Workers Union, the local community, and yourself, even Warren Truss was there. People who are familiar with Huey Williams, obviously from the Transport Workers Union, put a fair bit of effort into that. Now back in October last year, we finally got a result from the federal government, $1.8 million, that was great.
Oh, it was huge, and I think, you know, it's, for anyone who's ever pulled in and out of that intersection, it's deceptively dangerous. You think you're safe, and then at the last minute, you know, a car appears from somewhere just being hidden behind either a truck or another vehicle. And that tragic loss of life really brought it home. You know, at times you want to make sure you fix these things before someone does lose their life. In this case, you know, that didn't happen. But what has happened, and as you pointed out, I mean, who would have thought you'd have a Conservative MP working with you in the Transport Workers Union to get an outcome? But that's what happens, you know, when the community can work together. OzTruckIntV, you know, the drivers that are in the area, and just people who live in the area, all of them getting together and saying, look, you know, we don't want any more of this. Let's get it fixed. And in the scheme of things, you know, $1.8 million sounds a lot to people like you and me, but to the federal government, you know, that's just a drop in the bucket. And you know, it's great to see the money coming in.
Well, this was a campaign back in May last year that both a friend of mine in the area here, Brendan Blatchley, thank you, Brendan, he sort of got the ball rolling, put the idea into our heads, and sort of we did the whole thing with the petition. Took it down to the Mayor, who obviously went down to Parliament, and look, Brendan walked the streets of Gympie, got a whole heap of signatures. What a big thumbs up for that. I think he harassed that many people, and they just signed it and said, you know, I think he said don't sign it or sign it or I'm not going out of the shop. I hit the Sunshine Coast and we put all the signatures together, and I believe that was a big weight as far as Ron Dine, the local mayor here, heading down to Canberra and putting it under Mr Albanese's face. Well,
and it is, you know, petitions are great in the sense that they show community concern about an issue. And when you get the numbers as fast as you guys did, that shows that people really didn't have to have their arms twisted. You know, they knew it was a big issue. The moment that either yourself or Brendan or anyone else who put that petition in front of them, you know, anyone who lives locally was happy to sign it because they knew it was a really big issue. What it also showed is that you've got three levels of government, you know, all backing the same outcome here. You know, the federal member, me as a state member, our local mayor, all getting together and saying, come on, you know, in today's day and age, we can't have dangerous intersections like that up and down the Bruce. Now, it's a major, you know, we all know the problems on the Bruce Highway. I'm concerned about my patch, which is from Karoy, you know, pretty much up to Curra, and I'll work with anybody, you know, to make sure we get the funding to get those issues addressed, and it was great to have you guys on board.
Well, these, a lot of the local truckies and even interstate truckies, we've got a gentleman who contacted us, and he's from Narrabri, but he travels this road. And he was very serious in what he said, this needs to be fixed. So it's not just our locals, it's people from other states that are travelling through this area who now knew how dangerous that was, and they just put their hand up and said, where do I sign? So, okay, we got the 1.8 million granted back in October last year. Now I contacted David, I think it was just at the end of February 2011, and I said, hey David, what's happening with this intersection? We put all that effort into, and the government's given us all this money, but what's happening? So did you want to explain to the people
how
that came about? I mean, we were a little bit disappointed by this time, thinking, okay, when they granted 1.8 million, we were a little bit sceptical at the time as, oh yeah, okay, they're going to give us this money to do this, but oh yeah, we'll probably never see any work done for ages.
And look, and that's a fair call. You know, there's been project after project where you know, you have the announcement and then you almost think it's a bit of a snow job because nothing actually happens, and, and then they re-announce it, and then an election comes along and they re-announce it again, and you never actually see anything done.
Obviously from the general public, they just sit there going, oh well, what was it all worth for? And that's why people sometimes don't get involved. Why bother? Because we know we're going to get snowballed, or it's just going to get off to a different path. And
look, and I think that's where what you did and what others doing in keeping, you know, keeping the issue alive, keeping it at the front of people's minds, And as a result of that, you know, it was, I mean, it was a simple thing for me to write to the Main Roads Minister and say to him, hey, look, you know, where are we at with this? You know, what's happening? Had a big announcement, but we're not actually seeing anything on the ground.
Exactly.
And you know, unfortunately, the processes that are in place sometimes can be slow. It's because of taxpayers' dollars and no one wants to make a mistake in spending them, you know, and that's understandable. But when it's dealing with life and death issues, like this intersection tragically is, you don't want to be too slow in the way you deal with it. Now, thankfully, the Main Roads Minister got up in the Parliament just last week and flagged the issue, you know, actually went to the extent, and this is pretty unusual, of a Labor minister thanking an LNP, you know, the opposition local member, and saying, you know, in part it's due to your efforts in lobbying, and whilst I'm honoured that he makes those remarks, I'm really cognizant of the fact that I didn't do a lot of this work. It was people like yourself, Brendan, and others, Huey, you know, who all got together and really drove this. So now we've seen the public announcement happening. I know that Main Roads are, the design works, you know, there and done, and it's just a matter now of the tender being let and roadwork starting. So a lot of your viewers will actually be driving past that area, you know, seeing the roadworks taking place over the next few months, I imagine.
Now the date that I'm sort of hearing is probably mid to late April. Some work will start there, is that right?
Look, I haven't got a definite date on it yet. I know they're very, very keen to get work as soon as possible. Some of that will be dependent on weather, of course, but pretty much, you know, talking to our local guys in the Main Roads office, they're keen to see this happen as fast as they can. And in part, they drive on the same road, you know, and that's one of the real benefits when you've got decision making out of the capital cities. You know, it's easy for someone to sit in George Street, you know, in Brisbane making decisions, but it's the bloke who works here in Gympie who drives on that road. He says, hold on a minute, I want it fixed as fast as anybody else, because it's not only my life at risk, it's my wife, my kids, my mates, you know, and that's why, you know, when you've got that decision making a bit decentralised, things happen a lot faster, which is what we want.
A bit more of an input, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, David, well look, thanks very much for talking to us at OzTruckingTV. It's been a pleasure working with you on this, and no doubt we'll be working on other projects. Because, you know, one of the main things with us being truckies is we're on the road all the time, and we want to educate people how to travel with heavy vehicles, and if we find some really bad bits of road or things that are dangerous, we want to try and do what we can to get it changed. If
I can say something, and look, thanks for letting us be on OzTruckingTV. It's first time, you know, I hope I get to come back. But if I can say something to your viewers and, you know, wherever they might be across this great nation of ours, you know, truck drivers are in a great position. You guys often cop up unfairly. You know, people will criticise you saying, you know, you're the cause of problems. But you're also in a great position in that you see problems well before ordinary drivers do. You're professionals. And what I would say to anyone watching this is talk to your local members, you know, both state and federal. Tell them where a problem lies, because the lag time, as we saw, you know, from May last year to funding now, is a long time. And if we can get roads fixed before lives are lost, then we're in a much better position, you know. And we only can do that by knowing where the problems are. And if we, you know, as I said, deceptively dangerous, that Matilda intersection, you wouldn't know, you know.
Well, people that have watched our first video, the fatal at KYBONG, and the reason for that was obviously it was protracting to that accident that happened there. But if the viewers go and look at our previous video that was taken not long, I think it was back in May, it actually shows video in that of a blind spot from where a car would be sitting to pull out. See for yourself anyway. All right, David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
No trouble at all. G'day, I'm Dave Gibson, State Member for Gympie, and you're watching OzTruckingTV.